These days, Minsk is hosting one of the key regional integration events, the 4th Eurasian Economic Forum, timed to coincide with a meeting of the Supreme Eurasian Economic Council, attended by the heads of EAEU member states, including President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev. This year's forum is held under the theme Strategy for Eurasian Economic Integration, Outcomes and Prospects. Over 30 panel discussions are covering topics from logistics and energy to humanitarian cooperation. Even before the forum officially began, temporary trade agreements with the UAE and Mongolia were announced. But perhaps even more important are the informal conversations where business and policymakers negotiate the direction the Eurasian Economic Union will take in the coming years. Today in our studio we're joined by political expert Ozhet Shigerbayev, who will explore the true influence of such forums and what challenges the Union faces in the context of shifting global order. Ozhet, welcome back to the studio.
Thank you, Dorian. Nice to be here.
Yes, it is also nice to hear you and see you again. Let us start with basics. Who actually shapes the agenda of such forums? I mean, is it more about experts' input or political consensus between the member states?
Well, such forums are more about business, about the business cooperation, trade, economic cooperation, etc., etc., etc. As you stated, there will be around 30 thematical sessions, and there will be around 200 and 700 people, businessmen, experts, from around 30 countries all over the world. So it's not only about the EAEU, but it's also about the EAEU cooperation with the third countries. As you stated, there will be signing the agreements with Mongolia and with the UAE, but except these two countries, there will be discussions with India and Indonesia, with whom the EAEU also trying to create the free trade zone agreement.
Could you explain to our audience what is the role of Supreme Eurasian Economic Council? What kind of decisions does it take?
Well, it's the main entity, the main body of the Eurasian Economic Union. The members of this council, the heads of states, in case of Armenia, the head of the prime minister, and they identify the main strategy of the development, the main directions of the development of the union. So as far as I know, during this meeting there will be discussion about the strategy 2030 for EAEU and some new amendments to this strategy, some new directions of its development. And what is more important, the decisions of this council, they are obligatory for each state. And of course, all the decisions are made based on the consensus.
This year's theme is the strategy for Eurasian economic integration. So let me ask you this question. What key outcomes can be highlighted after 10 years since the creation of the Eurasian Economic Union?
Well, talking about it from perspective of Kazakhstan, we can see the increase in the trade turnover. So for instance, in 2015 we had around 16 billions of USD trade turnover with the EAEU members. Now we have around 30 billions of USD trade turnover. EAEU member states are main direction for our export. Well, of course, it's because of Russia, but nevertheless, it's some markets where we can export and the markets where we can expand our directions. If we look at last year, the GDP of EAEU countries grew up to 4.4%, while all the GDP of the third countries, so the whole over the world except the EAEU, it grew of 3.3%. So we can see that we have a kind of good.
Yeah. How do you think, which issues are more often becoming like stumbling blocks inside of EAEU negotiations? How do you think?
Well, previously our Kazakhstani Ministry of Trade of Integration, they published the article and they said that there were around 70 barriers since the creation of EAEU were identified, and 69 of them were actually resolved. But it's on the level of the EAEU. Of course, we can see some kind of problems on the bilateral on the bilateral level. For instance, we see it sometimes between Kazakhstan, Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan. But all such kind of problems find its solution on the bilateral level or maybe on the multilateral level. In general, we are trying to create, as our president, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, always stating, we are trying to create the open territory where each good or service or working force can go wherever they want without any kind of problems.
I've got one last question. As you correctly mentioned, there are many more countries are taking part in such forums. What does this indicate? I mean, you were talking about Indonesia, there is also China, UAE, Mongolia. What does this trend indicate?
It indicates interest in the Eurasian Economic Union, first of all, and we can see that there is some kind of geopolitical problems all over the world, and of course it have its input, its effect on the investment climate. And of course some kind of big investors, some kind of businessmen, they're trying to find some more or less safe place where they can invest, with whom they can cooperate, with whom they can make a business. For instance, at the moment we have the free trade agreements with Vietnam, and we can see that Kazakhstan and Vietnam trade since the signing of this agreement increased more than 50%. We have such kind of agreement with Serbia, with Iran. We signed a similar agreement with Singapore. It didn't enter in the force yet, but with time we can see. It shows the interest in the creation of new ties, new trade, economic ties, new investment ties between countries who are interested in the creation of stable strategic cooperation.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ojet. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, Dorian.
And just a quick reminder, my colleague Ainur Mangala is currently reporting from Minsk, which means you will soon see exclusive footage and interviews from the 4th Eurasian Economic Forum in a Silkways special program, Reporter with President. Stay tuned.